Okay, welcome everybody. This is a special municipal council meeting for the municipality of the County of Annapolis. There's only one item on the agenda currently. I'll start with the roll call. District 1,
Bruce Prout,
District 2,
Brian Fuzzy-Connell.
District 3, Alan Parrish, District 4,
Mike Bardo.
District 5,
Lynn Longmire.
District 6,
Morrison.
District 7,
David Hudson.
District 8,
Michael Gunn,
District 9,
Wendy Sheridan,
District 10,
Fred Redden.
and District 11.
Diane LeBlanc.
Thank you. We're dealing with grants today, so there may or may not be a conflict. So is there a disclosure of interest that you want to make with respect to any of the grants that are on the agenda? Seeing none, I'll move to an approval of the agenda. There's only one item on the agenda. Is move to adopt the agenda. Deputy Warden, is there a second? Councillor LeBlanc. Discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say yes.
yes,
Yes. Opposed, no. Motion's carried. So the one item on the agenda is under new business, 4.1, recommendation report regarding 2022-23 community grants. And I'll ask the Deputy Warden to read the recommendation. It's going to be changed slightly from what's on the sheet in front of you. So I'll ask them to proceed.
okay. Recommendation is that municipal council approve the 2022-23 grant allocations as set out in Schedule A in accordance with AM-1.4.9 Community Grants Policy.
And would you read out the schedule, the Appendix A for the record?
Oh, yes, sir. Hampton Lighthouse and Historical Society, $1,200. Age Advantage Association, $5,000. Annapolis Royal Football Club, $1,380. Friends of Annapolis Pool Society, $2,000. Annapolis Granville Pastoral Charge, United Church of Canada, St. George and St. Andrew, United Church of Canada. $0. No, oh, $5,000. There it is.
No,
And
No.
no, $0.
it is $0. Okay, $0. Okay. I'm reading this sideways. Sorry, folks. Annapolis Valley Exhibition Society, $20,000. Heart of the Valley Festival, $3,200.
No, you're reading the wrong column.
Oh, wrong one. Here it is. This is sideways and I got to go up and down here. Heart of the Valley Festival, $2,000. Middleton District Rink Commission, $5,000. Middleton Railway Museum Society, $25,000. Wharf Rat Rally Motorcycle Association, $5,000.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for that motion? And then any people can ask questions about any of them as we go forward. Seconded by Councillor Sheridan. Now, the motion that's on the floor is a recommendation report from staff, and because of the short time notice that we had in getting it out, it's not signed. So the report was prepared by Ms. Chisholm, reviewed by Ms. Campbell, and approved by Mr. Dick. According to this, do all of them agree that we should take it that their signatures are attached to the recommendations there? Ms. Campbell, yes. Ms. Chisholm, where are you? I'm trying to find you. Oh, there. Yes. Mr. Dick? Yes. Okay. Thank you. So before we get into a discussion of the individual grants applied for, if you don't mind, I'd like to just raise an issue, a general issue, before we get into the detail. And I'd like council members and staff to turn to page 6 of 7. under financial implications. And if you see that, I'm going to read the main paragraph under that, if everybody's caught up to me on page 6 of 7. It says that 2022-23 general operating budget has allocated $131,557.50 for community grants under AM 1.4.9. If this recommendation is approved for the allocation of the grant applications listed in Appendix A, there will be $64,977.50 remaining in the community grants policy for the rest of this fiscal year. So I read that a few times, and it's my understanding, I'm asking questions for staff here. Last month in June, we approved $6,842.50 of community grants. The ones that we're looking at today are $66,580. And according to this note I just read, there will be $64,977.50 remaining in the kitty if we approve these ones today. If you add those three numbers up, it comes to exactly $200,000. So I first assumed that meant that our budget was $200,000 for community grants, but I checked the budget and I see that we approved a budget of $315,000. And I understand that there were some amounts that would come out of the 315 that are fixed amounts that we give every year. But my question for staff is, if I'm correct in that we were working at 200,000, where did the 200,000 come from? Just out of curiosity before we get into this. Can anybody answer that? Ms. Chisholm?
Hi, yeah, I thought the 200,000 was allocated specifically for the community grants policy 1.4.9.
And how did you come by that impression?
I thought I read that on the approved budget, and that's the same number I used the first round that we had in the early spring for the first round of grants. I used the 200,000. So I would have to look further into it, but I've been using 200,000 for policy 1.4.9.
Okay.
So I'll have to, I'll bring up the budget right now and have a double check.
Well, I don't know if we need to get into it. It may or may not be an issue.
Yeah, I will triple check it for you.
But I guess if you look at the first sentence of what I just read, that paragraph, the 2022-23 general operating budget has allocated $131,557. That should read 200,000 there, should it?
It should read 200,000, and the 131, it should be what is remaining from the last approved grant. So that was my grammatical mistake.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that.
Mr. Warden, if I may.
Yes, Mr. Dick, yeah.
You may recall when we were discussing the budget, we had unspent grants from the previous year.
Uh-huh.
So we actually asked for a carry forward of some of those unspent funds. So that got us to the 200,000.
Okay, well, the budget, I looked at it yesterday, had 315 plus there was another 28,000 for community grants under recreation and culture.
Right.
However, I guess we've clarified that it's 200,000, not 131 that we started with. And
correct. Yes.
And we'll go forward on that basis. And if we start to run out of room, maybe we'll have to revisit how much we have in our budget. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. But I wanted to clarify that before we got into the debate. Okay.
Correct.
So I'll open the floor for any comments that anybody has with respect to any of the grants. Councillor Morrison.
Thank you. I just wanted to point out that for the past decade, and indeed beyond that, the staff members who have looked after county folks and organizations that ask for financial assistance have been excellent representatives of the county in many ways. First of all, they know most of the individuals involved. They've had dealings with them before. They know the organizations involved. And most important, and we found this a few years ago, that a lot of people require assistance and positive cooperation in understanding our rules and regulations and in filling out the appropriate forms. Thus, we have an accumulated body of knowledge possessed now by one person, possessed by others in the past, who have done an excellent job and have brought great credit to the county and have succeeded in relaxing the people who are coming to us for assistance. And I thank them for that and hope they continue that for many years to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councilor
Mr. Warden, if I may, I can't tell if there's another hand up. I don't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Prout.
I would just like to echo the comments of Councillor Morrison, that staff has been very helpful in my time here, and it's not as long as his by any means. They're so helpful and can help anyone who's applying to go through the forms, and that's been reported back to me on numerous occasions, as I'm sure it has to others. So I would also pass on my thank you to the staff, Nancy in particular, and those who came before. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bardo?
We'll start off by just, and I'm assuming in the backup paperwork so that we wouldn't have 50 pages of agenda, that there's backup data for all of the stuff as to amounts. I'll get more specific when we go item by item, but and maybe one general comment was they're asking us for grants, and it seems to be a cleanup grant that, oh yeah, this is what's left over, we'll throw it at the county. I'm just not sure that, if it's especially in another municipality, that we shouldn't be paying more than that other municipal unit that the property is located. So just wanted to, confirm that, I guess, when we do make a decision, and if it's contingent on multiple grants from federal, provincial, different municipal units, that some of them are pending, that typical practices to have confirmation that those grants were received from the others as well. And our grant is contingent on the whole package.
Yes, are you finished, Councillor Bardo?
For now.
Okay. Anybody else? Councillor Redden.
Yeah, thank you, Warden. That's my first question was, when we're looking at these, it ties into what the Warden was speaking about earlier. Had a question about policy. It says under large capital grants, grants are considered a contribution to non-owned assets which are made from operations and may be funded by transfers from operating reserve. And so, do they still come out of our grants pot? Is that still operations? I'm looking just for clarification, I guess.
Is there a particular grant you're talking about, Councillor Redden, or is this a general question?
Well, it's a general question, but I mean, there's the exhibition grant and the Railway Museum grant are both large capital grants, which is 45,000. So if they come out of another fund, it goes to your comment about there being how much is left in the reserve or in the grants.
Someone from staff respond to that question? Ms. Chisholm?
Yes, the allocation and amounts you see in the recommendation report are specifically from the community grants, the 200,000 that I was working with. For the large capital grants, council may choose to take the funds out of somewhere else, which would be the reserve fund. So if you choose to do that, then that would not be included in the original 200,000. That's put aside for the 1.4.9 community grants policy. It's just an option for you if you wanted to take it out of a different set of funds. Does that answer your question?
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Councillor Connell.
Yes, and I'm satisfied with the grants that's put forward. I'm glad they all came at once because myself had no knowledge on what the total was. And my concern is that sometimes community groups, especially this year, coming out of COVID, some of them are just trying to get geared up. So we may have some late applications throughout the year, and I wanted to make sure some was left. And by not knowing what the other request was at the time, it was hard to pass one without seeing them all. So I'm glad they all came forth, and I'm very satisfied that we have got a fair amount left over. And like David Dick, our CAO, has said, if at the end of the year we have a few thousand left over and we want to carry it on to the next year, that's our option. So I'm pleased that there's some left, and I know that there's some large requests not within the county, but the tourism that brings in spreads out through the county. And I know when they were in town filming last year about the train station, the money that came to the area was much appreciated. So I'm pleased with the what we're looking at today. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Councillor Sheridan.
So just a question for Nancy, if I could. In regards to the harbors, the wharfs, that's a separate policy. So is there a separate, this money separated from the 200,000 for that?
Yes, absolutely. So the Harbor Authorities and Societies policy is 1.4.3, and there's $200,000 specifically to operate that policy.
200,000 or 20,000?
20,000. Sorry, I forgot my glasses today.
That's okay.
So 20,000 has been allocated for that particular policy. That is separate from this particular set of grants you're looking at now.
That's good to know. Thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else? Councillor, just a sec. Councillor Bardo. Yeah.
Just a couple questions. One is the Valley X, the $20,000. Is that based on some renovations, or is that it similar to an annual amount that I just can't remember what we did last year or what was done previous years for the exhibition. It's more of a curiosity question for me.
Ms. Chisholm, can you respond to that for Councillor Bardo?
Absolutely. So this $20,000 grant in particular is for capital repairs. They're looking this year for a hood suppression system for the dining hall, and they're going to also replace some support posts in the dining hall. The administration building, when you first enter the grounds there, they're going to work on the interior walls. And they are also going to be working on painting the steel roofing on the beef, dairy, and fruit vegetable barns, and a little bit of maintenance. And that also includes all the labor for that as well. So each year their projects are very specific to capital improvements to the grounds and the buildings.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
That answered my question.
Anyone else?
Can I continue?
I don't see any of the hands up, so Councillor Bardo, keep going.
Well, Councillor Redden just put his hand
Okay,
up.
if you want, we'll go to, Councillor Gunn, is that your hand? Or Deputy Warden, I should say. Go ahead, Deputy Warden.
That would be me, and mostly clarification, sir. On page 3 of 7, the Annapolis Granville Pastoral Charge, United Church of Canada, St. George and St. Andrew, United Church of Canada. Well, my query was, I didn't realize we started giving churches money, because that's kind of opens up kind of a dicey situation. But it all is well on that. It says at the last sentence, if council desires to support this project, the recommendation amount would be $1,000 to match the town's contribution. But if I go down into the thing, it says Annapolis County pending $5,000. So I do query that.
Well, the recommended amount in the motion, Deputy Warden, is $0. And perhaps I could
Hold on.
echo your comment and ask, because I had the same question. Do we have a policy against funding churches or not? Can someone answer that? Ms. Chisholm?
Oh, it is, yeah, that it is.
The only place in your policy currently where it says that religious sanctuaries would not be considered is under the community halls and centers category. So by nature of the policy, they are permitted to submit a grant if they're a charitable or not-for-profit organization. The only time in the past that council has actually approved a grant for a church was, I believe it was last year or the year before, and it was more of a historical building and significance. It was the one up in Clarence. I forget the particular name of it, but it was more of a heritage type of funding for the property. The 5,000 is what they asked for. So when I put down the revenues, that is what the organization has provided in their budget. So they've asked council for 5,000 and we've recommended 0. However, if council did wanted to consider funding this project in part, staff recommendation would be to match the towns, but the staff recommendation ultimately is 0.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Gunn, or Deputy Warden? Sorry.
Thank you. It answers it very nicely. Thank you. And my apologies. I had forgot that that was a 0 thing on the end, but I was still kind of querying what was actually being stated. Fine. Thank you.
So I'm going to go to Councillor Redden, then Councillor Connell, and then back to Councillor Bardo. So Councillor Redden. Oh, and Councillor LeBlanc, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Warden. I want to say I'm not opposed to the grants I'm going to mention here, but I do have some questions through you, Chair, to the CAO. And it pertains to the Hampton Lighthouse grant. Doesn't seem like a marketing grant. It seems more like a communities program or Lighthouse Museum grant. The Annapolis Royal Football Club grant is not really a community programs thing. It sounds to me more like a small capital project. And the Wharf Rat Motorcycle Association, our policy says marketing promotion partnership program grant is only for in-county projects. That's the only one that says it's only for, it's the only grant we have that says it's only for in-county projects. And I'm kind of wondering why these 3 grants are here when they don't conform to policy as I read it, without it being specifically mentioned that they don't necessarily conform to policy. And I'm okay, like I said, I'm not opposed to these grants going out the way they are, but if I'm going to get a recommendation that contravenes policy, I would like it to specifically note that it contravenes policy. Thanks.
So I'll invite any staff to respond. Mr. Dick, if you do want to, but otherwise anyone else?
Well, I will respond and then I'll let Nancy ask or answer the specifics because I have not seen the background material for any of the grant applications. I will say, and if council recalls, we were in the process of redoing this policy. And if anybody were to read the policy, they would recognize that 60% of the grants are supposed to be approved at budget time. And clearly that didn't happen. And that was supposed to be in March or April or May. One of the things that I've spoken to council before about is that we have a number of policies that we typically do not follow. This is one of them. And what I would like to see changed in terms of this policy And this goes back to, I guess, some of the comments that councilors were making earlier, is that we divide the allocations into more than one trench. So we can get some when the community organizations need them, which is typically, March, April. So they can have the events ready when they start wanting to have these community events. And typically the other trench would probably be later in the year, maybe November or October, where they need to do renovations on the properties so they can have them ready for the next year. So there are certainly, I respect what Councillor Redden has said, is that the policies typically are not always followed. We typically go based on past practice. So we're in the process of changing that policy. So if Nancy, if you'd like to answer some of the response or provide a response to the specific queries that Councillor Redden had, that would be fine. Excuse me.
Ms. Chisholm, go ahead if you wish.
Thank you, Warden. Thank you, CAO. The specifically the marketing and promotion partnership programs. Yes, it says to provide funds to not-for-profit societies to advertise or promote businesses, industrial, and tourism opportunities in the county. The Wharf Rat Rally, although located within another municipality, spills over into Annapolis County, and they often host events that go into our county. For example, like the poker runs. They do tours on the other end of Digby County and then to the east. So it may be a bit of a stretch, but that's how it was considered, because it does provide a substantial benefit to our region as a whole economically and in the tourism light. The program grant from the soccer club, we used the Community Programs Assistance Fund because it was in general supporting the program as a whole. However, that could easily be put into the small capital category. Absolutely, that's not an issue, and I don't think it would necessarily change the application as it's written. So that was a great point. And the other one was, sorry, Councillor Redden?
The Hampton Lighthouse.
The Hampton Lighthouse, yes. And again, we took a marketing spin on that one as well, because they, but again, that could be also debated. One of the challenging parts about working with the groups is first I ask what do they need the money for, and what are they asking council for, and then we try to put it into our existing policy. So that one traditionally has been supported through a marketing grant, through a tourism lens, and that would probably be the best explanation I have for that one.
Councillor Redden, do those responses answer your question?
Yeah, no, that's more than satisfactory. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, I have Councillor Connell.
Yeah, I'd just like to remark, we have supported the Springfield church at one time, the county has, and I think it was because attached to the church is the community part of the community as an area for meetings and stuff within the community. So we wouldn't support the church, but it turned out that it passed that they would support the addition that is added to the church for the community area. So there was a difference on why we even submitted, or that application went through. And I'm glad Nancy explained a little bit about how some of the grants got approved. Years ago, Hampton Lighthouse, they had no bathroom facilities. And at that time, the county felt that we couldn't just give them a grant to have a porta potty, because if we did, everywhere across the county would be asking for porta potties. So we gave them a grant through tourism, and knowing that's probably where some of the money was going to go, was to supply a porta potty in the area for the lighthouse. So it was try to make it fit that we didn't get cornered into supplying porta potties everywhere across our county. That was one of the issues there. So that's somehow that came about. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Connell. I think I'll go next to Councillor LeBlanc, and then I'll get to you, Councillor Bardo.
Sure.
Councillor LeBlanc?
Okay, thank you. I'm slightly disappointed that we're going all over the chart here. I thought we'd just take one thing at a time and just go on, and so that we'd have all our questions and on specifics. So are we going to continue in this realm? Because if that's the case, we're all making comments that could have been done on specifics. So before I go on, what are we going to do?
This is the motion that was brought to us by staff. So we're going to deal with it that way. So you're free to raise any questions about any of the.
And a mishmash of them all, because I'd like to go through all of them, because we all have a little spin on every little one.
Sure,
as we go through.
go ahead.
So, okay, so if I start with the Hampton Lighthouse, that was explained by Councillor Connell, and that's exactly what I was going to say. And the Advantage one for the marketing piece, it certainly is money well spent, because it certainly involves tourism and everything around our county. When we're looking at the football club, I think it's just like the pool, but I think it's underneath. This certainly applies to giving a lot of educated and formal training to individuals all across our county. So the amounts that are given to them as grants are exceptional, because everybody has had children that have gone through these different clubs, and it's good for them to learn to work with groups. As far as the church one, that was also explained. I'm thinking that the church one has been something that we tried to stay away from, but yes, as Councillor Connell has said, that we did provide some because the hall was connected to a church, so therefore, it was basically giving it to the hall, but in the area, that's where their hall was, connected to a church. The Annapolis Valley exhibition, I was kind of looking at that grant and I'm thinking, okay, yeah, they need the assistance, but what surprised me was that there was no grants from Kings County or Digby County that I seem to have seen previously before through the years. And if I'm wrong on this, I would like Nancy Chisholm to, she's very good at knowledge and giving us information. And if I'm wrong about that, because I know that they have given grants before, because it's not Annapolis County exhibition, it is the Valley exhibition.
So why don't we pick up there, Councillor LeBlanc, and put that to Ms. Chisholm, and then I'll come back to you to continue after Ms. Chisholm has responded to that particular question.
Okay. Thank you.
I see your hand up, Councillor Redden. I'll get to you. Ms. Chisholm, can you respond to Councillor LeBlanc's question?
Yeah, absolutely. So Councillor LeBron, you're asking specifically if other municipalities contribute to the Valley exhibition?
Yes, because I know they've had in previous years.
Yeah, I don't have that information at my fingertips, but I can certainly ask the manager. The particular revenues listed are and for this one specific project. So for this application, no, they're not accounting for any other municipal contribution. And I'm unaware at the present moment of any other municipal contributions, but I can certainly follow up and let you know.
Okay.
But for this particular project and application, we're the only municipal unit they're asking money for.
Councillor LeBlanc, I think Councillor Redden wanted to respond to your question, so I'll go to him and come back to you.
Because I was wondering, because he sits on the committee, he would know something.
Yeah, Councillor Redden.
Yes, I know they have applications into the other municipalities and they've received support in the past. I was having a conversation with their general manager just the other day about how ours is the only grant they have to apply for that they don't have to put in a report afterwards about the work they did. I don't have their financials right here in front of me to kind of give you a number, what they got this year from the other municipalities, but I know they have applied for them because there's one thing their general manager is very good at. It's
Oh, yes, she is.
finance. Yeah.
Okay, back to you, Councillor LeBlanc.
Oh, so you want me to keep going?
Yep.
I'm on okay, thank you. Counselor Redden, and Nancy. The Heart of the Valley Days, well, it was nice to see that the Heart of the Valley Days started again, so our contribution to them has certainly helped our different constituents in the county go and have fun and relax and see people and so on. So that's a usual that we do contribute to them. The Middleton Rink, well, as I said, that's another thing that I totally think that is important to the community because it's used by everyone, and the young people as well as the older generation is in each level in between. So I approve of that. And the Middleton Railway Museum Society, I'm looking at that one, and this is the one that I think we should have some kind of discussion on. I know that they need the money, they need the 25,000. It does provide with tourism, but when I'm looking at the revenue that's provided, Middleton's revenue has not been put on there. So is it saying that they are at, there's no Middleton revenue? I know that they provided something.
Councillor LeBlanc. I think I
Possibility
can-
of,
Councillor LeBlanc, I think I can respond to your specific question.
I know that there's that sentence in the second paragraph, no, the third paragraph at the top of page 5. The society also requested 10,000 from the town of Middleton, and they have confirmed a contribution of 3,000. So
My understanding is that the request that the 3,000 is firm, and the organization for the Railway Museum went back to the town to explain that this was capital and not operating, and requested 10,000, and that request is currently outstanding. I think I've got it straight there. So keep going, Councillor LeBlanc.
So is the 10,000 in this revenue part? Is it?
It's not firm at the moment. 3,000's firm, but 10 is not, as I understand it. It's still being considered by the town of Middleton.
Okay, so the 25,000 is something that we need to discuss then, depending on their 10,000. And I know they need their money now because they have other funds from the government that they have to look at and get work started. Well, I'll just skip to the other ones. Warcraft Rally is the last one. And we have in the past, and because of all the tourism that it brings, that is the same number we have contributed every year from the time that it started. So to me, my only concern is the Railway Museum Society. If the town were to give 10,000, does that mean that we would give less? Or we would give 20,000, or does it mean that we stay at 25,000 and give them the extra? Opposed to giving them money, I'm just wondering what we're doing with this.
What we're doing, Councillor LeBlanc, is there's a motion on the floor to pay
To approve as is.
to pay the Middleton Railway Museum Society $25,000 pursuant to a grant. And if anyone councillor wants to move an amendment to the motion with respect to that, they're free to do so.
Okay, so I'll let other people speak and I'll mull this over.
Okay,
you.
Councillor Bardo?
Yeah, I kind of got pushed aside there. Councillor Blanc went through item by item, but I kind of did one item, and then you took another hand, and I kind of lost track of the multiple things I was going to talk about. But one question, and then I don't want to be booted out again. I got more to talk about, but one question is the Wharf Rat Rally. Are they confirmed as nonprofit, or are they for profit like they were in the beginning?
Can anyone on staff respond to Councillor Bardo? Ms. Chisholm?
They are not for profit society.
So they have a society then, okay. Because I know
Associate, I think it's an association actually, but yes, they are not for profit.
I know the organization changed and it's a different set of administrators now than there was. Back to what Councilor LeBon was talking about was the Middleton Museum. I have concerns on that as well. And before we vote on this grant policy as a total, that's at least that one. I think it requires a motion to make an amendment. I'm concerned for multiple reasons. One, the town was asked for 10 and they're only given 3. It's in their municipality. Why are they asking us for more than they are asking for the town? Because we're an outside municipality. We already gave them a train, which is worth a lot of money. So if we set a precedent of every time they turn around giving them a lot of money, I think it's a worthwhile cause, but I think we have to watch our dollars and how we spend county money in other municipalities. In the paragraphs here, it does say the 3,000 up top. They confirmed 3,000 of the 10,000 in the town, but when you go down to the total revenues, that 3,000 isn't included in the tabulation of the total. So if they're looking for an amount, I still think that we talked about this before previously. It's been brought back to council a couple times on this train station grant. And I have multiple issues on that one. One is what I mentioned, that I think that we shouldn't be spending more than the local municipality. Two is they keep coming back with it. When we ask for a little more information, they come back with something. Well, and it's not total. It's like they come back with a quote, a revised quote. That's not putting it out for tender for 3 bids. A quote can be it could be double what the actual costs are. And then our grant money might not even be required. So why should we not be asking for this kind of dollar values to actually get the bids so that we have actually some realistic figures? Now, not saying that the individual who made the quote isn't pairing his figures, but there's nothing saying that it's not just, he doesn't have any pressures to actually bid on this. So where is all these bottom line figures coming from? I've worked on multi-million-dollar projects over the years, and this is not how you do business.
Councillor Bardo, the motion on the floor is to pay $25,000 to the society. If you wish to make an amendment, you're free to do that.
Well, I think we could give them some, but I'd like to hear from the other councilors as well, in reserve comment on that. And maybe there's others that has some ideas on, what might be a realistic figure. I'm not sure if we can put a realistic figure in there.
Okay, I may come back.
It would have to be somewhat less than what is on the schedule or the Appendix A.
Thank you. I'll go to Councillor
If I
Sheridan.
may, Mr. Warden, could you put me in the queue to speak when the
I will.
others are done?
I will, Councillor Prout. So I'll go to Councillor Sheridan.
So I am in full support of the 25,000. With the information that I forwarded to councillors on the weekend, I learned more about their need and what they're going to be doing for tourism in the whole county. This is something big that they're working on. I feel it's necessary, and I'm in full support. I would not support an amendment. I think they've worked hard. I've learned more. I wish I could say more, but in confidence, I can't with them. But it's big what they're working on. So I'm in full support. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Prout.
Thank you. Excuse me. I fully support all of the grants that I see here. The one that I had questions about originally, and you may recall during our debate earlier in the month, was indeed the one for the Railway Museum. However, as people are aware, there was the reunion in Middleton, the high school reunion over the weekend, and I took the opportunity Sunday to actually go in and visit the Railway Museum to see what was there and what might, be lacking. Is it a work in progress? It certainly is. But I didn't meet with, I was taken on a tour. I just said I was there because I was part of the reunion. I didn't identify myself as a counselor. And there's a great group of dedicated volunteers there who are really working hard on it. And I was impressed by what I saw. Originally, I was looking at a much lower number for some of the reasons that were mentioned so far in this discussion. But I believe that it's something that we should support to, I guess, the best degree the council feels they can. If the town is looking at 10,000, originally I thought, my God, 10,000 is plenty for another municipal unit. But after having seen it for myself and had walked through and said, I could see, I don't know how many people have been in North Conway, New Hampshire. They have a great railway museum there, along with actual trains that take tours. But there's potential there in Middleton at that railway museum, I think. And I would like to see us do what we can to support it. So those are my thoughts on that. I look forward to the discussion when we get to that one, if we pull that out and look at it. But I'm closer to Councillor Sheridan's position than I might have thought I would have been at this point. So I'll leave it at that. I think the rest of them I'm in full compliance with, and I will look forward to further discussion on the Railroad Museum. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Proud. Councillor Morrison?
Thank you. I was raised on trains and hot boxes and engines and cabooses. My father spent his whole working career with the Canadian National Railway. So I have a natural affinity. Also, the people with the Middleton Museum have been working very, very hard. They had the sincerest of intentions. And without indicating how I would vote on an amendment with regard to the amount, unless I hear a pretty convincing story, I'm 100% in favor of granting the application. Thank you.
I'll just say, I see some hands up, all of you have spoken, and I'll get to you, but I'll just say that I'm in full support of the $25,000 grant. I think this museum could become one of the most important tourist attractions in our county, and our county surrounds Middleton on all sides. And I'm fully in favor of trying to create another very big tourist attraction here in Annapolis County. So I saw Councillor Connolly, your hand up.
Yes. Myself as a counselor for one of the surrounding areas that surrounds the town of Middleton, I never think about the town of Middleton not being part of Annapolis County. When I drive into town of Middleton, I don't know, a light bulb don't come on and all of a sudden say, oh, Jesus, I'm in a different jurisdiction. Middleton is a part of our county. Many people on many committees within the town live in the county. They pay taxes in the county, but their dedication is to things that support the town of Middleton and Annapolis County. So I have no problem supporting it, seeing the amount of funding that they're going to hopefully capture from the province and the feds, and what their outlook is going to be down the road to what that museum's going to be. The McDonald Museum has helped the Port George Museum tremendously when we first started out, or the Mount Hanley Museum. We're all part of Annapolis County, and I do realize that the town of Middleton has their own tax collection and stuff like that. But I just want to make sure that people understand that it's not individuals within the town that do a lot of the work within the town. The rink is supported by many, 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 many people in the East End. We don't go to Bridgetown because the county owns the Bridgetown Arena. We go to the arena that supports our local area, which is Middleton is my local area and my constituents' local area. Same as Councillor Pro, Councillor Blanc, Councillor Sheridan. We surround, just happens to be a town in the middle of our surroundings. But all of our kids and people we know, adults and beyond, gather there because of what's there. So I am in support of the 25,000, especially, like I said, the amount that they're gonna bring forth from the other levels of government. It's a big project. So I am in support of it.
Thank you. I have Councillor LeBlanc next.
I am totally in support of helping Middleton. It is part of our community. But if my math is wrong, I want to be corrected. Because when I do the math with the numbers that are given in the revenue part, and I included the pending $10,000, it amounts to 263,000. So if you do this math part of it, that they need 278,000 and change, I'm looking at a difference of 15,000. So if I'm doing the math wrong, I'd like to, because I'm thinking, well, even if we provide 20,000, we're 5,000 above what is needed. And if I'm incorrect, that's fine. I'm good. I want to give them the money. That's not the point at all. They deserve the money, and people from all around Middleton work in there to help. So I'm just looking at the math part of it.
Ms. Chisholm, can you respond to Councillor LeBlanc's inquiry?
What I did is I add 195, the 40, the 18, and the 10,000, and I didn't include hours. And I came up with 263. That's the way I did it. If there was any other numbers I was supposed to put in there, I'd like to know. And I took the 275 and subtracted it from the 263, which means 15,000 and change. And if my math is incorrect, I'd be happy to be corrected and not talk about it again.
Go ahead, Ms. Chisholm.
They provided an updated quote. The senior, sorry about that. So they're working, yeah, it should be about 278 right now. I'm just looking at the last version that I had submitted to you guys.
Yeah, 278, 158, 84.
Yeah. They're working around 278 for their total. They're going to come up with the extra 158 on their own. So the senior government funding at 195, the 40,000 that they are raising themselves, they have the $18,000 rebate, and then the 25.
That adds up to 278, doesn't it?
Yes.
Which is the number of the quote.
Yes.
And the 10,000 from the town is not added on there, so they'd be.
No, they requested $10,000 from the town of Middleton, but they've only secured 3,000 of it. And that $3,000 contribution is not listed as a revenue for this particular project. I believe it is going to be put towards other things during the bigger picture of their renovation. So for this particular project, unless the 3,000 is going to be included in their 40,000 that the museum is coming up with, it's specifically stated in their revenue. However, I don't want to speak for them, but that 3,000 could be part of their 40,000 that they're responsible to come up with. But I can't say that for sure. Does that make sense?
I see how you're looking at it.
I see your hand, Councillor Bardo. I'll get to you.
Thank you, Nancy.
Councillor LeBlanc, that responded to your question?
Well, it did, but still leaves the question of the 3,000 being put in the 40,000s.
Warden and the CAO had his hand up. Maybe.
Yeah,
he can
I was going to him next. I was just waiting for
Oh,
Councilor.
well, let the CAO go first. Maybe he'll clarify all this for me.
Mr. Dick?
Thank you, Mr. Warden, and I'd love to be able to clarify it, but it's a similar question that I had. And I'll go back to comments that were made earlier by both Councillors LeBlanc and Councillor Barto about the financial information that is provided to the county when we're reviewing these grants. I don't believe that the financial information we're getting is totally up to date, quite frankly, and it's difficult to make recommendations. And I also support giving funds to the museum. But I think we've got to make those funding decisions based on correct information. Councillor Barto brought up the Wharf Rat rally, and he asked the question whether it was for profit or not. And even though it's a nonprofit society, there's nothing to say that nonprofit societies don't make money. And if we looked at their financial statements, and I don't know because I have not seen them, they could have some wealth. And I think back to a grant request that was made to us last year by an organization that they wanted $16,000 from us, and they were getting $8,000 from a third party. When we actually asked to see the financial statements, we found that they had significant cash in their account. So they reduced their request from us from $16,000 to $8,000. So I would certainly concur with the comments that Councillor Barto and Councillor LeBlanc have made, is that the financial information in which to make these decisions sometimes is not totally current and totally up to date. And I would hate to see us making contributions to somebody and the funds just go into reserves for them for other uses. So again, I'm totally in support of providing this funding. I just think that the financial information that we need, if council wants to make a contribution to the museum, which I think they should, maybe it should be pending getting financial information and getting concurrence that the other funding sources are in place.
Well, Mr. Dick, this is a recommendation from staff in front of us, right?
Right. And you and I did have this discussion on Friday.
Councillor Hudson.
Thank you, Mr. Dick.
You're welcome.
This has to do with the Wharf Rat Rally as well. And maybe I missed it in the information that provided. Now, Ms. Chisholm said that our grant was based on the economic development that was generated in Annapolis County from that event. I do not see, and maybe I missed it, that there was any grant contribution from the municipality of Digby. I see one from the municipality or from the town of Digby, but nothing from the municipality of Digby. You know, their economic benefit should be larger than ours. And I just maybe get a response to that question.
Ms. Chisholm, go ahead.
Both the town and the municipality of Digby are equally contributing the same amount to the overall rally of over $7,000, I believe. The request for Annapolis County Council is to specifically support the family zone, but both the town and municipality are contributing the same amount of money in cash. And also the town of Digby is providing all the other services at no cost, several thousand, $100,000 of in-kind services.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
You're welcome.
Okay, I'm going to go to Councillor Longmire if she hasn't spoken yet.
Thank you. Great discussion. I'm just a bit baffled as to, again, policy and the gaps in the policy and or the way in which grants are managed and how we allocate. I know that we approve through the budget a certain amount, but it seems that through this conversation here today, there's details that we still aren't provided prior our meetings so that we can be better aware of what we're entering into. I certainly appreciate all of those who have written for the grants, and I am in favor of supporting these community efforts because we need them. And as many of the other counselors have said, they rely on these grants in order to make things work. And certainly COVID has put a stall on much business. I'm certainly in favor of the Middleton Museum grant being for the 25. I think it is really important that we do have thorough details and an accurate policy. I'm finding it problematic because we're asking questions that we actually should be given the information in advance so that we are better aware of how we move forward in making the decisions here today. I like the comment that Nancy Chisholm had made about, the ways that we make particular groups able to fit and qualify, because I do believe that it isn't all cut and dry. Again, this is something that needs to be, we need to be better aware of. And it is hopeful for other groups in our communities to be able to write for grants in the future. So I guess what I would end on is the details. It's in the details. And I find as we're going around the table here trying to get those details, it's kind of a mishmash. So I'll just finish there. Thank you.
Yeah. We now have a policy where counselors are only supposed to speak twice without consent of council, but since there are 8 or 9 different applications before us, I'm going to put that aside on the assumption that people could speak to each one of them if they wanted to. So I'll go back to Councillor Bardo.
This will be my second on the railway. I was just going through figures, and also there's a correspondence that Carolyn forwarded to us from the treasurer of the Middleton Museum, and it conflicts with figures again on our totals that are attached to our policy. It mentions that the town was asked for 10, giving 3 on the and it totals 278 on the funds totals. On this other correspondence, it includes 10,000 from the town on that total, and this was presented to us for this meeting. We only got this on Friday, and it says on the top of the correspondence it's for Monday 25th, July 25th. It still totals 278. You can't have a total of 278 whether it's 3 on one side and 10 on the other. There's some accounting problems on that. If they need 278, we're willing to give them 25, and town's only given 3. That means there'll still be 7 short. So I just have a little bit of lack of faith about the information that's being provided to us, because it seems to be all over the map. Whenever we ask for information, they send us something new, but it doesn't tally up with everything. There's no accountability there. So I'm just wondering why, where this information is coming from, which one's more current. There's on this latest one that they were included as an attachment to the council. It says the town of Middleton 10,000. It says that they're only confirmed for 3,000 on the other correspondence. So I think it's a little wishy-washy. I think that we should support the train museum. I think it's a worthwhile thing, tours, attraction, whatever. But it goes back to what I was talking about before, was the finances. And you've got to be accountable when you're dealing with this kind of money. You've got to be accountable, and you've got to be accurate. So I'm not sure where that leaves me, whether I make a suggestion. I think that it's too much. The 25 may be too much, but what's a fair figure? And then on top of that, if they need the 278, they're putting inaccurate figures in there. They're assuming the town's giving them 10, and they've only committed for 3. So I really don't know where this is leading us. So possibly to clarify and to move things along, if this is a stumbling stone, that maybe we make a motion to pull this from the grant applications and deal with it separately. And
If you want to make an amendment,
I'll do that.
Councillor Bardo, everybody's free to make an amendment.
it's not saying that we're not going to pay them, and we may end up paying them the same or more, but I think it needs clarification. So I think it has to be pulled from the set and to be dealt with separately.
What's your motion?
That's my motion.
No, you're making, yeah, what is it? You want to table, you want to remove the grant to the museum from the motion? Is that what you want to do? You want to move
Yes.
an amendment that we not deal with that today? Is that where you are? Can you put it in your own words?
To the Middleton Railway Museum Society grant of $25,000 be set aside from the original motion to be dealt with separately.
Okay, thank you.
And that's not saying that we can't just, if we
No,
deal with the
yeah,
rest of them.
I was trying to get.
Please let me finish.
No, I asked you for your motion and now you're discussing. I just want to get a second here for your motion for the amendment.
Okay. It's just, I'm so used to being cut off and not going back to that. I'd like to keep talking.
So there's an amendment that we not deal with the Railway Museum grant today. Is there a seconder for that amendment?
I have a
Could I
question.
ask for-
First of all, I
yeah,
need
could
to
I
know,
ask for clarification?
Councillor Prout, are you, I heard you saying something. I need a
Just-
seconder for the
I'd like
amendment.
And I was looking for a clarification. I didn't hear Councillor Bartow say not deal with it today. I may have missed it, but to deal with it separately today, to let us look at everything but that and then come back to it. Was I correct in
I was
that
trying to,
interpretation?
say that, but I got cut off. Thank you.
So
Yeah.
I took it to mean the intent was to deal with the other items and then come back and discuss further the Railway Museum. I may have been in the wrong there. That was my interpretation. Thank you.
I see the clerk had her hand up.
But I myself was just trying to clarify what the motion was. What I believe I've captured, Councillor Bardo is saying is to amend the motion to remove the Middleton Railway Museum grant to be dealt with separately.
So separately today, is that
Councillor
your,
Bardo?
Councillor Bardo, separately today?
That was the intent. I don't, unless there's more information that we don't have that has to come back to us. But if we can deal with it today, let's deal with it today. But it's just clouding the rest of the motion.
So your motion is to take it out of the current motion and do a
Yeah.
separate motion today.
Yes.
Is there a seconder to that amendment?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Councillor LeBlanc. Discussion? Discussion? For the third time, is there any discussion on the amendment? Councillor LeBlanc?
I guess what what I'm looking at is if we do this, we approve all the other ones and move it aside so we can only discuss one. And maybe get a few more points clarified on numbers, but maybe that's the way I look at it. And then make a decision today on moving it on or well, it needs to be moved today. They need the money or changing the amount. That's what I look into this discussion. Thank you, or this motion.
Okay, the amendment is to take the Railway Museum grant out of the current motion and to deal with it later today. Any other discussion? Councillor Hudson?
Yes, I would like to make an amendment to that amendment. And that would be to reduce the grant by the amount of $7,000 pending clarification on the grant from the town of Middleton.
Councillor Hudson, I think what I'd like to do is this with your suggestion. If the amendment passes, then we'll be discussing it later today and you can raise that in the discussion.
Okay.
If the amendment doesn't pass, then you're free to make another amendment to the current motion. How's
Okay.
that sound?
Okay, fine.
I don't see any other hands up, so I will call for a vote on the amendment to remove the Railway Museum grant from the current motion. All those in favor say yes and raise your hand.
Yes.
Yes.
No, I see three. 1, 2, 3 hands.
There was 5 and Bruce said yes.
Sorry.
Yes, I'll support the motion.
Oh,
To
okay.
pull
You'll
it
support the
aside
amendment to
back.
pull it aside today, and all those opposed, raise your hand and say no.
No,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
You get 7.
I get 7. Is that, does everybody agree with me that there's 7? It's hard to do it on Zoom.
No, didn't see it.
Okay, Counselor Bartow doesn't seem to agree with me. All those no, raise your hand.
no,
4.
1,
Yep.
2,
Yeah, you're right.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Yep.
So the amendment is lost on a 7-4 vote. So we're back to the original motion on the floor. Now, Counselor Hudson, I said I would come back to you. Do you wish to make another amendment?
Yes, I will. I would make an amendment to reduce the grant to the Middleton Railway to $17,000 pending clarification on the grant from the town of Middleton.
Is there a seconder for that? Is there a seconder for that? Counselor Bardo, your hand was up. Are you seconding that motion?
Yes.
Okay. Discussion? Discussion? For the third time, I see Counselor LeBlanc.
So the motion is to give them 17,000 instead of 25? Is that my,
Madam Clerk, would you read the amendment, what you have?
I was just going to be asking for clarification that I have it correctly. It was moved by Councillor Hudson, seconded by Councillor Bartow. Amend the motion to reduce the amount of the grant to the Middleton Railway Museum to 17,000 pending clarification on the grant from the town of Middleton.
That's the motion. Any further discussion?
well, if you,
Yeah, go ahead, Counselor LeBlanc.
so the 17,000 with the will not, with another 7 from the town will not add up to 25. That's what I'm looking at.
Okay,
I'm looking at numbers.
my math is wrong.
Councillor Hudson, that's what I'm looking at.
My math is wrong, Councillor LeBlanc.
Oh, okay, okay.
Counselor Hudson, what did you intend to say in your motion?
I just wanted to reduce it by the difference between the 3,000 that Middleton has committed to the 10,000 that has been requested. There's a difference there of $7,000. And so my intention was just to
Okay, so would you like-
reduce it by that amount,
So-
and get, these people more likely need these, confirmation of these grants, as soon as possible. And so I don't want to hold up our approval. I think, if we could approve a partial grant now and later on, approve the additional amount.
So are you agreeable to amending your amendment to 18,000 rather than 17? And is the
Yes.
seconder, Counselor Bardo, are you happy with amending that to 18 instead of 17?
I guess I understand the rationale.
Okay, so we'll consider the amendment to be 18 now pending. Now, discussion on the amendment, Counselor Connell.
The way I look at it is that if the town of Middleton doesn't come forth with the 7,000 more, then the Train Museum Society has got to fundraise $7,000 more. They've got letters out to all the businesses within the town. But if we drop by $7,000, we're putting the pressure onto the committee to raise another $14,000. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to support the motion. $14,000 along with their 40,000 that they're trying to raise as a a not-for-profit committee, it's quite a chunk of change as it is. And like what has been said, they've worked very, very hard. There's a lot of volunteer people that's worked hard at that museum to get the train there and to get help to get the train there. So I won't be supporting the motion.
Councillor Sheridan?
I won't be supporting the motion. The tourism is going to outweigh the $7,000 that we're dickering back and forth here about. It's pointless in my mind. I still want to support the 25,000. We are going to gain that back, an economic spinoff in our county. Thank you.
I have Councillor Morrison next. I see you, Councillor Redden. You're muted, Councillor Morrison.
Thank you. I'd like to agree with those who have said before me that they will not support the motion. This is a fantastic project. It has great potential, and I think it's within our capabilities that we support these folks. I was very impressed by a previous intervention from Councillor Connell when he described how he approached the town of Middleton in a philosophical and very practical sense. So I will not be supporting the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd like to just take the opportunity to state my position, which is I agree with what Councillor Morrison said. I won't be supporting the amendment. And I also thought that Councillor Connell's comments were right on the point. So now Councillor Redden.
Thank you, Warden. Kind of going back as far as the CAO's comments on requesting more financial information and things like that. Our policy doesn't really ask for a whole lot. And from what I can tell, this grant application initially met the requirements of our policy. I would like to see our policy request a lot more information, especially from large capital grants. But that's a future problem and not a current problem. This information has been provided here that this amendment is kind of working off of, to me, isn't part of the grant application. It's them responding to our request for more information, so that if we don't want to support it to the tune of the 25,000, as this motion indicates, we can do that in an informed way. Which I think I commend Councillor Hudson and Councillor Bartow that they've said, hey, we want to support this, but maybe not to the full tune, and they've made good reasoned decisions on this. I have to say I am much more in line with Councillor Morrison and his previous comments from Councillor Connell that, yeah, I think this is a big project. There's I was just scanning through that document, $250,000 in installing that engine there. Their current asset value is at about $1.25 million. This is a big project. Some of the confidential information that we've had conveyed to us about their future projects, frankly, I found gobsmacking. I'm very impressed they've managed to get some of that in the works. So I'm against this motion. Thank you.
Anybody else on the amendment?
If I may, Mr. Warden.
Go ahead, Councillor Prout.
Despite my earlier reticence on this grant, I won't be supporting the reduction of the amount. I would like to see it higher. I would be in support of the whole amount if this amendment doesn't pass. And I won't be supporting the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote on the amendment to reduce the amount to $18,000 pending more information from the town. All those in favor of the amendment, raise your hand and say aye or yes. Raise your hand and say yes. 1, 2. All those opposed say no and raise your hand.
Oh,
Oh,
the amendment is lost 9-2 or 2-9, as I see it. All right, Councillor Bardo.
More of a question than a comment, I guess. I just found it very strange with this amount of money bad around and everybody involved that the province didn't have an amount in there. It would seem to me that they should be getting some funds from that direction if we're willing to contribute that amount. It just seemed very strange that, and Nancy, would you, or can I ask that question, that was there any indication that they get turned down from the province on this, or they just weren't, they just didn't even request the amounts?
Ms. Chisholm, can you respond to Councillor Bardo's question?
Absolutely. There was no indication of provincial support on this particular application.
Okay. Anybody else on the motion on the floor is to approve the staff recommendations? Councillor Redden.
I think that's been a really great conversation. I think it raises a couple points about our policy, especially when it comes to things outside of county. Maybe we need to have some look at that sort of information in the future. To respond to Councillor Barto's comment there, in that most recent correspondence from them on Friday that he previously referenced, they indicate that they have $129,500 from the province as part of their matching grant. I would really like to see, especially with our capital projects, that these grants come back and tell us what they've done with our money and give us some accountability for it, so that they can't just dump these funds into their, reserves for the future and stuff like that. Because we don't currently have that. I think it's kind of bad when
I see you, Ms. Chisholm.
our grant organizations don't lament that they don't have to file reports with us. So that's my general policy thoughts and how it reflects on these grants. There's something else I had there, but I'll be quiet for now.
I think that Ms. Chisholm was going to respond to your comment, Councillor Redden, and I'll recognize her if she wants to say anything.
Thank you, Warden. Currently, when if a grant is approved, letters will go out to the organizations that have the approved funding, and they are requested to submit a follow-up letter to say if the funds were used as directed and approved by council. I've just seen in the past, if a group does not, if something happens and they need to change the reason for their funding, normally they do that through official request upon council, and you guys have had those requests in the past. It is not currently in the policy. You're correct. That was one of my recommendations moving forward. If we do get a chance to put some recommendations for you guys to change the policy, I think it needs to be more formalized and stated in there. But we currently do ask for a report after their project is completed. It's just not in the policy.
Councillor LeBlanc?
Thank you. If anything, this discussion has showed us that we do have some work to do. And there's definitely no reason why we should contribute the $25,000 to the Railway Museum, because they do need the funding, and it is going to be a great asset to our area. However, it has certainly pinpointed some discussion on where we're lacking different areas, on comments from the CAO, on comments from Ms. Chisholm, and also Councillor Redden. I want to say Brad, sorry. That things need to be looked at a little bit more, so that it's more clear cut, and so that we don't step into these areas like we are. And of course, when it comes down, as I was saying, I was looking at the numbers, trying to add them up, and they're still not working for me, but it certainly is a project that I would not stand in front of to go forwards. Because we do need this in our area, and so I am all in favor of them doing all this work. However, we're going to have to look deeper into seeing what we can do to clarify some of these issues that were brought in today. Thank you very much. And I thank Nancy for all these comments and questions that she's taken from us. So thank you.
Yeah, Councillor Bardo?
Just a possible amendment. I'm not sure if it's clear on there. Maybe it's already in there. And if it's not, I'd like to add that the grant is pending receipt of information.
Which grant,
And then-
which grant are you talking about?
Well, I guess more specifically on the issues around the Railway Museum. But I guess with policy, and it's not there, I don't think that maybe it should be a blanket motion to say pending receipt of all information, because there's gray areas here. The totals that on there, it says Town of Middleton pending $10,000. There's no clarifications or corroboration that and it's fair to ask when you're giving grants that your grant is usually pending on the totals, which includes the other grants, where when it's saying that they don't even have clarification on them, we need to be sure that we have the proper information before we release the money. So
So
pending receipt of lacking information.
Do you have an amendment to put on the floor, Councillor Bardo?
That was it.
I didn't get it. Could you put it in one sentence for the clerk?
That release of monies be pending receipt of information, of lacking information. I'm not sure if that's the right word, but that's the general intent.
Are you talking about a specific grant, or are you talking about all the grants?
I think where it's not in the policy now, that, yeah, I'll just let that cover all the grants.
So did you get that, Madam Clerk? Then what the motion is, the amendment?
So your motion is back to the original motion for all the original amounts for all the original applications.
Yeah, it's not an amendment to an amendment to an amendment. It's just amendment to the original motion.
Right.
So you want to add release of funds is pending receipt of information. That's not clear to me. I'm sorry.
Well, it's not clear to me that we have all the information that we should have. And that just leaves staff the flexibility to receive that information and clarify and confirm prior to releasing money.
I'm still trying to work out the wording of the amendment that you're attempting to put on the floor, and I do see Councillor Sheridan's hand up. I don't know if that relates to what we're trying to distill at the moment.
If I may,
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Sheridan.
I'm just wondering what kind of information Councillor Bardo was looking for. According to Ms. Chisholm, all the applications have been filled out according to our policy that we have now. And if we change the policy, I can see in the future that we have to do what Councillor Bardo has suggested. But right now, we're following everything that is put forth in our policy. So I just don't want to hold these people up, any of them.
On a point of order,
Except that-
please.
Excuse me, point of order. Councillor Morrison has a point of order.
We have a motion, I
Mhm.
think, presented. And we've now started to discuss it, but there has been no
No
second.
second.
Good point.
Well, we haven't distilled Councillor Bardo's amendment at the moment. That's what we're working on. And Madam Clerk, what's your current wording of the amendment that Councillor Bardo wishes to put on the floor?
To amend the motion to add release of funds is pending receipt of lacking information.
Okay, is there a seconder to that amendment?
I'm just not sure that's,
Does that capture,
Fair
does that
enough to
capture the
give
intent of your amendment, Councillor Bardo?
And if I can just respond to what Councillor Sheridan said, that
Well, can we work on the wording of the amendment? We need to have an amendment on the floor. If you're going to make an amendment, and then we can discuss it. So did the clerk capture what your intent was, Councillor Bardo?
I guess my development of amendments is a little lacking on the legal skills this morning. So if you bear with me on that, and I'd be acceptable to if somebody wanted to amend the amendment to clarify it. But if we could just do that to get it on the floor. So we could just make the release of funds pending receipt of information.
So Madam Clerk, would you see what you've got for the amendment that we're putting forward? Would you read it for us?
there wasn't a seconder yet, right?
Not yet, no. We're trying to get the wording of the amendment first.
To amend the motion by adding release of funds is pending receipt of information.
Is there a seconder to that amendment?
I'll second that, and I would like to speak, please.
Okay, the amendment is seconded. Councillor Morrison.
Thank you. I think that amendment is pretty clear. We are requiring staff to communicate with every one of the applicants today. And we say, we have considered your applications. However, we are not going to give you any funds unless you send us the missing information. Very truly yours, Carolyn Young, Clerk. I'm not sure how that's going to work. Thank you.
Any other comments on the amendment on the floor? Councillor Longmire?
Thank you. I would just like to go back to a comment that Councillor Sheridan made. You know, these grants have been, the applications have been filled out and received, and they have met the criteria as laid out by the current policy. So, you know, I find it problematic now that we're going out after further information. I would certainly see us in the future, going back and revisiting the policy and then adhering to a new policy. But currently, we're right where we need to be. Thank you.
I have the Deputy Warden, and then I have Councillor Bardo on my list. Deputy Warden, was that your hand up? Or were you just?
No, go ahead, Warden. I'm listening intently and I might have waved my hand inadvertently.
Okay, sorry. Councillor Bardo?
I guess related to, not specifically to anybody, but where they're all in as a group. It was indicated that we did go off policy, I believe, with the Wharf Rat Rally. So we can't make a blanket statement that we are going completely by policy with this, because we're not. We've made concessions.
Are there any other comments on the motion, the amendment to wait for further information on these grants? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote on the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment, say yes and raise your hand. 1. All those opposed, say no and raise your hand. No.
No.
The amendment loses 10-1.
Thank you.
We're back to the original motion with the grants on the floor. Any further discussion with respect to the grants in the motion? Any further discussion with respect to the original motion and the grants? Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of the motion say yes and raise your hand. Yes.
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 All those opposed say no and raise your hand. I see one no from Councillor Bardo. So I'll declare the motion passed on a 10-1 vote. So thank you, council. That was a good discussion. There's nothing else on our agenda today. I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Moved by the deputy warden, seconded by Councillor Hudson. I think I saw his hand up. Any discussion on the motion to adjourn? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say yes and raise your hand. Yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, say no and raise your hand. Motion's carried. Enjoy your August, everyone.
Thank you.